Hi, Sarah. Good to see you super well on time. Very nice. Oh, I thought your hair seemed like you're wearing some jewelry. I thought fancy for Malhar, you're like all dressed up.
Hello.
Hello.
Uh, I'm out. I'm not at home, and
Oh,
just wanted to connect it. Yes, I wanted to enjoy it.
but
Just
you'll
say
you'll be
hello
there for the
to
session.
you.
You'll be
I
there
will
for the
be. I
session,
will be.
right?
Yes. Thank you.
Ask your
Yes.
questions.
Yes.
Bring in your
Um.
questions. Type your
Thank.
questions if you can't talk.
Okay.
Okay? That's why you'll
Okay.
have
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
it covered. Mm. Okay.
Thank you.
Hi. So good to see you. Decades.
I hope the background is all fine. I just came back from outside.
Hi, Gile. Oh God, so nice to see you all. Super, super. What you saying? What are you saying, Nitin?
No, I was just checking my backdrop.
Yeah, yeah. It's nice. It's given you a dark background at the edge. You're getting all lifted up. The cinematographer is perfectly positioned.
Hi,
Awesome.
Kinley.
Hi,
Well,
Nikhil. Hi, Sonia.
hi,
Same
hi.
city, sitting online. Huh?
Gauri, come, come. Where is Gauri? Gauri just finished a session like 10, 7, 8 minutes.
Oh,
So
Hi,
she's.
Nikhil.
hello, ma'am.
Look at you.
Hi, Sonia.
I
I
can't,
also
I
have to
can't,
look like
I
you, right?
can't wish you like the way I want to wish you right now, but
And Nikhil, you're getting a lot of hellos from you know where, from the group. When everybody got to know you're going to be on the same panel with Hanshu and Vesha, everybody.
Yeah. I put it on Facebook.
Yes. And so I'm very grateful to Sonia for creating this forum. Always grateful,
Yeah,
Sonia.
it's been
she asked
fun.
me like, no. When Sonia asked me that, please refer me some names, the first name was like, Gauri ma'am I sent. And then she says, I came to know about you through ma'am only, and you are sending ma'am's number to me.
I know it was such a joke. He's saying Gauri, I was like, Acha, thank you. Thanks for telling me about Gauri. I was asking him about other people in the academic. It's
Yeah.
fun. Then he said, I know. I said, Chalo, good. I didn't know this festival has been like super, super. I'm dying to. Tomorrow it's closing, you know. Then maybe over a cup of coffee, I have to tell you guys all about it.
Sure. Hats off and congratulations.
Thank
Festivals
you.
are complicated,
I
a
know.
lot of hard work.
Yeah, totally. And for a, I mean, not in a bad way, but we are a very small organization. So that way, the challenges are very different to organize things independently. But that's results, when you have like happier people, you see what you wanted to do and it's happening. Can we join for the coffee meet too? Yes, Vimla. Then my coffee mug will just become larger and larger. Of course, we have to meet up. Uh, right. So, it's time, but is it okay with you all if you wait for 2 more minutes?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah? Okay. We just have last batch come in.
In the meanwhile, Sonia, can you brief us on Malhar? Because that will also help us get the context of, our responses. We're looking at young filmmakers or seasoned filmmakers. That makes a lot of difference.
Sure. No, absolutely. So, so it's a mixed batch. So, there are filmmakers from about uh 20 to 32 years of age. That's like one batch. And then there are 40 plus. And then that 40 plus, I mean, though in like one or two or three capacities across different parts of the globe, but they go up till like 70 years of age. So
And
independent,
we have, we have an audience from across the world, is it?
across the world, 3 time zones. So see, we had more than 1,000 film submissions from 56 countries.
Okay.
Okay, out of that, the shortlisted films, there are 300 shortlisted films, right? Which again is a very fair distribution between India and the rest of the world, right? And these master classes, we have had 3 types of interactions, face to face interactions. One is the process walkthroughs, where some of the experts come and they take them through their particular process of an
Yeah.
aspect of filmmaking.
Yeah.
Then there are master classes and there are conversations,
Yeah.
right? Now this we have been doing at this time onwards. So this is where we have like an audience of anything between 10 people to 40 people, an average, right? And post the festival, what we had assured everybody, post the festival, we will be sharing the recordings of all the sessions, because across the time zones it is difficult for people to connect, because even though it is timed like this, but for the US guys it's like 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning, difficult things at work kind of a thing. So that's what it is. In terms of films, it's a short film festival, so under 30 minutes. An average length of films. Hello, Mr. Seth, how are you? You're on mute. Can't hear you.
Hi, good evening. Yeah.
Good
I'm
evening.
fine.
Hi,
Welcome.
Aditya ji, how are you?
Hi, ma'am. How are you?
Very fine. Please call me Gauri.
Yeah, okay. Bad habit being an academic. We tend to call each other ma'am and sir all the time. But yeah, okay. Gauri is fine. How are you doing? How's Bennett treating you?
Very well, sir.
Very well. Good. Glad to know.
So just finalize. So basically, like the average length that we have come across in a good category is 8 to 12 minutes. So a lot of people have been able to tell very effective stories in 8 to 12 minutes. We've had 5 themes this year in season 2. One is gender, migration, passion, education, and health. So, and there has been gender, education have been maximum what people have made on, and then mental health, then comes passion and migration. But very, very strong stories, extremely strong. So that way, our jury members and our curators, Adil Hussain, Neeraj Kabir, Rajat Kapoor, the kind of feedbacks that they've left are, some of them we are going to go through in our session also today, but they have been like, they are very moved that people independently, with absolutely their basic resources and very small skill set around them, are able to churn out these kind of stories. So that's what it is. Whenever you find time, you have to watch the films, Gauri, and Nithil and Aditya and Kinley, of
So
course.
I got to watch a few of them. I got around, I think, 15 movies I watched
Yeah,
as a
you
jury.
did. Yeah, actually, you were the one who watched. Of this panel, you have watched quite a few of them, and your comments are very, very nice. All right, good. So let's. Your phone is out of service, Sarah. What does that mean? You'll enjoy. Okay. If you have questions, just try and type it like the way you're typing, and I'll read it out to the panel. All right, let's go. So did that answer your question, Gauri, about the festival?
Yes.
Yeah. And today we have, again, it's a very mixed batch, but all seasoned independent filmmakers. So everybody has done minimum 8 to 10 films. Some of them have also indulged into features. Yeah. From the lots that I see here, yeah, the ones. But actually we have to address all the people here because they're going to listen to our recordings. So, the age gap is like 20 to 50 years. All right. So we have taken extra 5 minutes chit-chatting. Thank you for waiting while we were talking around. Welcome everybody to the last day of Malhar. We have actually come to day 9. How is it feeling? All of you have been here for all those days. Good, bad, ugly?
It's wonderful, Sonia. It's a very and we feel sad like we're going to close it now. Yeah, really we're gonna miss it, but it was really enjoyable, very informative, and for us like independent filmmakers, it was very useful. Thank you very much for organizing such a platform. Thank you.
Wow, wow. We are going to close only to open again. So don't worry. We close and we start working towards the third one. Awesome. So today's panel is actually planned in a way. It's obviously titled Film School to Film Market. So in the last 8 days, as you all have been a part of the journey, we've had several conversations which had to do with the topic, the series, what they don't teach us at the film school. That is the series on which we've had a lot of conversations. And the idea of that series is not to point out at the film schools, of course, but at a theoretical way of understanding a very abstract medium of filmmaking. So we've been doing a lot of conversations with cinematography, with lighting, with direction, with producing, and looking at the various myths, the different processes of different speakers, and looking at that, okay, which are the ways that people across the world are indulging into. So that's been one series. And then comes the film market. Of course, when we make the films, we want it to go to our audience. We want thousands and lakhs of people to watch our film. Right? And in that, film festival becomes one route, while there is the other, the market, the distribution market, the OTT platforms, the channels, the production houses, and you name it. And that's where the mystery is. Where is the market? Where is my film going to get played? And so we've also done some conversations around distributions also. But today, we have a mixed panel, an all esteemed panel. So we have people who have been a part of film schools, the best film schools, the best professors, people who are, the way I say best is committed, have turned around the whole academic scene in the film fraternity, respected, very well loved by their students. And that's the whole aspect of having them here. And then we have the film market. So conversations from the film market also. So I feel that this would be a nice way to sum up our 8 day of stimulation, excitement, all the conversations we've been happening. And let's listen to today's conversation about film school to film market, sitting inside of Malhar. Yeah. And the panel is absolutely an interactive panel. We can ask them questions at natural breaks when they come in. As always, we can have chat sessions going on, which I'll be happy to take it over the panel. We'll go on unmute as soon as there is a right space for that. All right. So with that, with all of you together, let me welcome our esteemed panel to the Malhar Film Festival. Thank you, Dr. Gauri. Thank you very much for joining me at Malhar at such a short notice. I know the kind of turnarounds you've done to be here really matters a lot to me. Thank you.
Always.
So Dr. Gauri is a professor at Times Media College. She has been teaching as long as I think she's been working. She was with Amity earlier, Time School now. So thousands and thousands of students have gone under her purview, and a lot of them I meet, and Gauri, the kind of respect that you command, I hope you know about that. I hope you have a sense of the way your students talk about you. No, you don't? Oh my God.
What if I were to tell you I'm the student myself today, with Nithil being there, Aditya ji being there, and Mr. Sering being there? This is a beautiful space to be in, isn't it? To be a learner.
Oh yeah, and that's another quality of yours, to be really able to switch between the two. But I mean, Gauri wears so many hats that it is going to take all of this session to actually introduce her in entirety. But a few things is that she's also the festival director of International Association of Women in Radio and Television, and she's going to talk about the festival also to us, so we will know about yet another beautiful festival. I hope, Gauri, you will bring that up for our fraternity also. Thank you very much. She's a very beautiful classical dancer that I love to see and watch whenever I can. So like I said, there can be many things that I can go on and on. But today we are going to listen to her from her space and expertise at the film schools, and what is her experience around that. Mr. Aditya Seth, he is a filmmaker, an academician, a professor, and also the president of IDPA. He comes with this whole rounded approach on this panel here. The reason I really requested him to come again at a very short notice is because he is a filmmaker himself. So on your side of the fence, he teaches. So he has students who then go out and make films. And then he runs an organization, which is the Documentary Producers Association, which means that there is more on the governance, legalities, policies, frameworks, is also where he's instrumental. So that brings a very, very large perspective to the panel here. Nithil, of course, Nithil Dennis, he's the associate professor at the Royal Thimphu College, Bhutan. He was very well here in Delhi till a few years back, and then he decided to go to the better lands, the beautiful lands of Bhutan. Bhutan, as we all know, is a small place, very less population, and the whole aspect of filmmaking is very new to that land. Very, very, very new, and that's where he's making the difference. Being early at some place is also an advantage, but is also a risk that not many people can take, because what you get in your foray is a lot of uncultivated thought, a lot of unprocessed structures, and to be able to build that from the starting of anything is something that I deeply revere. So Nithil, hats off to you. I know you went there for the scenery, but what you're also doing there is great. It's amazing. And from the same land, and actually Nithil introduced me to Kinley. Kinley Sering is the creative director of the first and the only OTT platform of Bhutan. Now, again, in the whole space, how does anybody take the risk of being the first? I always have a bigger salute to the risk takers of that capacity. Kinley, from the first conversation I had with him about 4 months back, or maybe longer, from the first conversation, we have been together at doing work on Malhar Film Festival and on a lot of things. So he has been very instrumental in making sure that the films that we select, shortlist from the Malhar final winning team, will get featured at his OTT platform, Samu, which will be, so the winners from the festival, shortlisted ones, would actually have the streaming on the OTT platform and will have an exclusive Bhutanese audience to that. How is that? That's
Great.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, he just went absolutely in a minute and he said, yes, we're doing that. So deep, deep gratitude to you, Kinley, for being so open. You had no idea what kind of films would be. You had no idea what kind of festival it would be. But just agreeing to something in principle means a lot to me. Thank you so much. Great. So with this panel, the only thing I can do is throw in some questions to form a direction, and rest is open to the public to take it up and the panel. Are we good to go? Yeah? Everybody else, if you can just mute yourself and let only the panelists unmute, it will be fun. Anything, panelists, you have anything to say before we start? No?
Looking
Good.
forward to the discussion.
Awesome.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Wonderful news. Thank you to Mr. Kinley and Malhar. Yes, Shamez. Very good. Oh, sorry. There were so many messages I didn't read. Vimla is saying, awesome. I think it was to the festival review. Okay, beautiful. A little saddening. Oh, don't be sad. Lots of learning. Great. Lot of learning. It's wonderful to be with you all. Same here, Shahid. Javier says, friendly festival. So are you. Thank you very much. Suramo is saying, overwhelming. Shemus is saying, wonderful news. Thanks to Mr. Kinley and Malhar. Thank you very much. Very kind of you guys. All right. So, and the panelists, any of you can take that answer up. It's really whatever comes to our mind. I was wondering that considering that all of you are at such awesome spaces in your career, in where you're impacting, do you think that your education, the one that you took, prepared you for the work that you do today?
Aditya ji, I have a long story to that. Do you want me to begin?
Please, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay, so very interesting, Sonia. Actually, just to give you an anecdote, and it'll be really maybe strange for some of you, that I wanted to be a professional classical performer, but understood very early in life that there are no formal systems like today where you can create a living out of it. And so I have a science with an economics background. And this is the time when India was opening up. And this is about mid-90s, globalization had just happened. And to me, 9 to 5 didn't seem the thing to do. And I also know that in this very great audience that we have here of Vimla and Aisha and Vikrant, a lot of you also feel the same. I know that Nithil is fraternity. You know, we don't look at life as 9 to 5. For us, it's an endless cycle, you know, an endless cycle we enjoy. And so for me, it was what to do next. And the Film Institute at that point had launched a fascinating program called Production Management in Film and TV. And to, television, when you're producing, you also, it implies direction. And so with curiosity, I walked into the space of cinema, being a cinephile. And then, things turned out. So, and one by one, and then it eventually led to academics. I stand at this very interesting space always where the academicians think I'm a practitioner and the practitioners think I'm an academic. And I'm still sorting it out because I can't figure out. But
Keep them
so
guessing,
defin-
don't sort it out.
yeah. So, for all the people who are in the house, and this is also something I share with my students, with cinema to kind of tell yourself that this is exactly how I'll do it, or this is the way it'll unfold. It never happens so. And as the journey of life kind of moves on, your subjectivity to the medium itself changes. So something as the jury, something that I would have interpreted differently 10 years ago, I interpret very differently today. And with each passing year, your reference points to cinema as a medium, they keep evolving. I also understand that there's this lot of conversation about cinema and television and web and streaming, but at the end of the day, I feel it's just a celebration of storytelling. And we are so enamored by it. We're always enamored. And that's how but this field evolves. I mean, this is my perspective. So I wonderfully call myself a guinea pig of the Indian media and entertainment industry. And also there's gender thrown in. I will not go there on why in 1995 or 1998, as a woman, I couldn't do certain things that probably a young woman or a young girl today would have done. So that is the periphery. So just to kind of get it going, Sonia.
So you were saying that your education, did it prepare you for the work that you do today or no?
Actually, Sonia, I don't think education is the correct word at all. Today, I doubt what we interpret through that word. To me, the sanskars were important. To me, the conversation with my mother when I was 8 years old, when a Adur Gopalakrishnan film would play on Doordarshan, and because there wasn't another channel and my mother was a cinephile, you were watching Elia Patyam, not even realizing that that little rat trap that you're seeing later in life, that will become such a metaphor to understand. So, to kind of, a lot of students come to film school also thinking that, they've done X stream, or they understand science or commerce or whatever. At the end of the day, it's how much do you interpret it, how much do you kind of interpolate within yourself, and how much agile you are to the 5 senses, that is education to me at the end of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And see, this is what it is. It's all about interpretation. It's a word, but to Gauri, it means sanskar. It means the time of the childhood, So that's perfect. Even if if even if it takes anybody else in any other direction of education, that's also fine. It's just, you know, what we are saying is of what it was initially and what it is now. So anybody else in the panel, any thoughts of how did your education prepare you for the work that you do today?
It most
Aditya?
certainly did. It most
Okay.
certainly did. I am only a graduate. I have never been to film school, although I've taught at the top film and media schools in the country. But I have fortunately not been institutionalized. Maybe they should have locked me up and thrown away the key a long time ago, but that's a different issue altogether. So yeah, it did, because I was studying English honors at Delhi University. I was doing a lot of theater. I was a drummer. We had a band. I was indulging or dabbling in amateur photography. So I guess it all came together, and I asked myself this question when I turned 20. Finally, then what do I want to do in life? There was only one voice that came from within: I want to make films, and that was that. And I never questioned that till date. So I guess, yes, the environment, the opportunity, the various activities I was involved in did lead me to want to become a filmmaker. Did it
Wow.
lead me to become an academic? I don't know. I guess academia just happened by the way on its own. It started as a
Sure.
dare, where I felt that there was one this particular person who I saw teaching, who I didn't think was capable of it. And then I said, if this chap can teach, I can bloody well teach. And that's really how it started. And yeah, it's been 25 years since it started. I'm still teaching. So yes, I guess every experience has led to another, and that's brought me to wherever I am today. So yes, I can say safely that my education did help to a large extent, and is responsible whatever I've achieved, or let's not say achieved, whatever I'm doing today. Yeah.
Sure. Beautiful. Nithil, yes, please. Such a good
Yeah,
student.
so for me, I think my education, of course, I did visual communication where filmmaking was part of it. But more than that, I attribute my college and my graduation days, I mean, the biggest lesson that my education taught me, or my teachers taught me, or what my college taught me was to be very sensitive about things around you. To be aware, to be sensitive, to be curious, and to always look for, new things, and be triggered by the new things that, you come across. So for me, that I think is the biggest lesson that I learned. Apart from filmmaking comes, when you love telling stories, any tool can be a storytelling tool. I mean, filmmaking is just part of it. But I think more importantly, I think the sensitivity towards things around you, the environment, the happenings around you, being curious and always being curious, always being a learner. And that thing is very important. And I think that was what my education taught me. I mean, like if ma'am was telling that, education now has to be redefined, I think this is one thing we'll have to relook at. I mean, are these students really, sensitized? Are they aware? Are they really, looking, observing, and are they really curious? That's one thing that I wanted to just add on.
Also, Nithil, the whole thing of kind of triggering that curiosity. So what Aditya is saying and you're saying, I just wanted to add, for years I have wondered, where is it that there is the gap? Where is it that when we talk, some things seem to be understood, but then they float away. So Nithil, last year, a small little activity one started in the film school, and which is to make a visual diary. It seems like the most simplest thing to do. Yeah? Simplest. All that the student has to do is, just take out a diary and scribble on it and some visual motifs. Like Nithil is saying, to observe, and what and Aditya ji, his experience in theater may be contributing so much to his being aware of, the five senses again. So anyway, that little journey, and can you imagine that there were students in my class who, for example, there was this one girl, from the time she was in her mother's womb, an old lady, a lady used to come and deliver a nariyal to the house. But this girl had never talked to that person. And because she was obligated in this stream of visual diary, And to her, this person also seemed like a person. She started a conversation. And if you were to read that conversation, it is storytelling on how this older, Lakshmi Amma has been coming. What is her politics? How does she look at life? And actually, that is the scoping of the education that we really need to understand. And Aditya ji and Nitil both, I'm sure Kinley will also understand. And I'll use Hindi here. Whenever we are taught art, my mother, my guru used to say, कि जो आपको सिखाया है उससे नहीं आप just doing footwork 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 is not going to help. So they say सुनिया देखिया परखिया. सुनिए अपने आसपास क्या है, सुनिए, use your ears. देखिए, use your vision to see. And once you've done, when you've heard and seen, then parak, analyze it. Because that is where you will find new meaning. So again, I'm saying, what is the model when we say film education? So film education anyway, for those of us who met earlier as well, how can it be a timetable of education in film? It's not possible, because if suddenly, you want to have a conversation on just rhythm one day, and that day, you decide, let us all together, like today in this, forum, if the mood comes to rhythm, then, to change it to something which is so, although structure is also needed, but what I'm trying to say is the beauty of learning is to just let it be and absorb. And therefore, a lot of people question film appreciation, but film appreciation is very important.
Very important.
For it is that suniya, dekhiya, parakhiya.
Right. Yeah. To listen to watch and to observe.
To see, not watch.
To see.
See. And see.
Hear to see.
One is to look, one is to see. See uses the brain.
Beautiful. Kinley, what about you? Did your education prepare you for what you're doing
Yeah,
today?
all right. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Greetings from Bhutan. It's such an honor for me to be part of this esteemed panel members. A little bit intimidated also. Yeah, I have very minimal experience in film. I'm a student of film. I'm still learning. It's been an exciting journey for me. Just 1 year old. Our OTT platform, SAMU. SAMU basically means cloud in our national language, Tsonga. For me, I'm a student of literature. I studied literature in college. Then I became a journalist, a print journalist for more than 15 years. I was working as a print journalist. And then during that time, I got this opportunity to study multimedia journalism, convergent journalism, in one of the most esteemed institutes in India, MCRC, Jamia. That's where I got exposed to filmmaking also. My mass comm friends were making films, and I was very envious, and I was thinking I should have taken up mass comm and not journalism. And that's how I started learning about films. I came back with a specialization in television production, but I was working in a print newspaper. That's when I started dabbling in audiovisual production. And in some ways, I think that that interest, that passion for films created a pathway for me to take up films. And now I'm a creative entrepreneur here. We started Bhutan's first OTT platform at the peak of a raging pandemic last year. It was very scary, but very exciting too. Thank you.
So do you think your childhood or your whatever part of the learning time, I know it's a continuous journey, but what you connect to the learning phase, do you think that led you to where you are today, an entrepreneur, an absolute risk taker, first one to go for such a heavy risk thing? Is there a connection, or this is new you?
Absolutely, I think as a student of literature, as a journalist, was always telling stories. And I was fascinated by the power, of films, the influence that that film has. So I think it was
Yeah.
only natural for me to choose a different medium, a more powerful, more impactful medium as film, to tell stories. So I think it was just a matter of time. And I
Love
do
for
feel,
storytelling.
yes, my literature background, my journalism background, everything I think has come together, to put me where I am here today.
And it's beautiful. Awesome. Okay. So, I mean, this can be taken up by anybody, best coming from the professors. But what is it that you definitely coach your film students that either translates into their filmmaking skills or indirectly contributes to their personality? And that the point here is the part where you imagine that it is required to be an agile filmmaker. So what is it that you definitely make sure that is there as a part of your coaching process?
Can I take that?
Yeah, of course.
Make them think. Make them think for themselves. Make them take responsibility for what they do, and make them observe life. Get out of their devices. Get out of themselves. Stop being so solipsistic and self-obsessed. Because kids are very self-obsessed these days. And just watch life. Go non-electronic, if I may use the word, right? Just go organic and just observe. Observe yourself as a story. It's all about storytelling, fundamentally. I think I just make people realize that how life is a story and it's always ever evolving around them. And how we need to look at both the good and the bad. And we need to hurt our sensibilities, and we need to imbibe stuff that hurts our sensibilities. Only then can we create truly dramatic stories and truly interesting stories. So the whole thing is to think for yourself, take ownership of what you're doing, be observant, and then create and apply whatever idea you have. Of course, I help them turn it into a cohesive script, and then prepare them for shoot, keep them production, and then they make their film. So there's only hand holding up to a point. Beyond a point, they're doing their own thing, but in a structured manner, in a manner which teaches them and prepares them to be a filmmaker if they wish to be, whenever they wish to be, as they go along. Or it's just a film that they've made, or they can use it as a showreel, but at least it's a complete process. So the process is totally taught as an organic, systematic way, in an organic, systematic way, which comes from within, which is their own idea, their thought, their own application. And it's a lesson for life. It's a lesson for life to realize, to document, to depict, and to bring something together, which is only a thought or an idea or a concept to start with.
Wow. I think what I picked up from so many things that you said was allowing one's own self to be vulnerable. Like not to overprotect our own ideologies or our own selves and
No,
the
not
thoughts.
at all. Open it up.
Okay.
Open it up. Hurt your sensibilities.
up,
Look at things which hurt you and turn stories out of those. And that's the real challenge, right? I mean, you may be, to use political terminology, you may be a victim of the left or the right, but you want to talk about the right from a left point of view. I say talk about the right from the right point.
From the right point of view.
Why not take the bull by its horns and see what you can do with it? Why not challenge yourself to deal with something that hurts you? Because the moment you do that, your narrative reaches a different level altogether.
True.
And there's a lot more thought, there's a lot more depth, there's a lot more research that goes into it. And yes, you will be a lot more satisfied at the end of it.
Absolutely. It's your point of view. It's your way of looking at it. You can stand by it. 100%. Any other thoughts? Anything
Sonia,
different?
so Aditya ji said the right thing. Observation, first of all, looking inside as much as you look outside. And two things that I particularly add to the mix, probably because of my grooming in a certain way. One is poetry. I feel that in our lives, we may be celebrating all the arts with the visual arts. People are also exposed to some kind of theater, although sometimes even students have not even experienced a stage play, but it's okay. They can settle. But poetry is one thing which is completely absent from many of our lives, many.
Right.
So I think that, and Aditya ji, poetry is so political.
Oh, yes.
बोल बोल की लब आजाद है तेरे, बोल ज़बां अब तक तेरी है. मतलब, it's so political, and also the navras or the rasa. What happens is, especially with Indian storytellers, and Nikhil has been my colleague in a film school, so he'll understand. So they are thinking of storytelling, but like Aditya ji said, from a stance which is not theirs. So even when you give them a reference exercise to do, even the names of the characters come from a very anglicized space. But I would say, we are from a certain land. There is a certain hormonal mix that we have, a catalyst to the way we like to hear our stories, and they can't be compared to others. So I've also met young people who also brandish the Indian way or the Indian kind of storytelling, as inferior to the West, and I take huge, it's not
Dislike to
correct.
that.
Yeah, it's not correct, because to be so much in silos will be also another way of closing your learning. So if you look at the cinemas of the world which are really making, kind of taking our attention, it is cinema from Latin America or Latin American filmmakers in Hollywood. It is cinema from Taiwan, from Philippines, from South Korea. I'm sure from Bhutan, as Nikhil trains more filmmakers and Kinley's OTT kind of moves on. So, and India, of course. So, what is this trying to tell us? It's telling us that these, and Iran, how can we forget the Middle
Iran,
East?
of course, of course.
Why is it that there is a namak? There's something about their stories which just engulf us.
Yeah.
So, Aditya ji, with your permission, I mean, beyond observation, these are also, I'm sure, things that, kind of move ahead. मैं आपको एक साधारण, I'm sorry, I'm using a little bit in Hindi, but Aditya ji, sometimes in class I say, अच्छा इसको interpret कीजिए. निदा फाजली जी का एक नज्म है जो बाकी लोग जानते हैं, आगे नहीं जानते. न तुम ढूंढो मुझ में जो नहीं हूं मैं, न मैं ढूंढूं तुम में जो नहीं हो तुम. किसी को मुकम्मल जहां नहीं मिलता, कहीं जमी तो कहीं आसमान. अब एक क्लास में आप यही छोड़ दीजिए, तो उसी में व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू से इज कि उन्होंने एक्चुअली, अगर आप शब्दों का देखें तो इट्स हार्डली गॉट एनी वर्ड्स. तू, मैं, तुम, व्हाट इज इट? But that's what I'm saying. To understand how, and every visual is poetry. I mean, for those who may have seen Nikhil's work, his eyes look at things which are there, and then his composition creates absolute magic. So you have the words, you have the vocabulary, but how are you juxtaposing it? Also, another thing that's sometimes missing is our sense of cultural nuance. For example, a red dupatta, or just kind of touching of fingers, to younger people, those who are observing these things matter. The touch of human skin in cultures like ours. But for some, they are at a very distance, and that distance doesn't allow them to probe further. So it then will affect your way of using the apparatus.
Yeah.
Because the camera is going to really look the way you want to see.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
Nitin.
Sonia?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to be very frank, listening to Gauri ma'am is like going back to film school now. I mean, like, you go back to basics, you have to like, rake in your head. I mean, like, to, understand certain things that ma'am tells, and that really, energizes you. Thank you so much, ma'am, again, enlightening us with your concepts. Yes, what I was just about to tell is that what sir told and ma'am told is very correct. But also one very important thing is reading. I mean, which I would like to, tell my students. I always tell, read anything and everything. You don't have to just read the classics to be like an intellectual, You can just read about any story that comes in the newspaper today or tomorrow, or probably in a magazine, or just you just go, to a place, you have to wait for some time, you see a magazine there, just pick up the magazine, you just go through the magazine, you'll find an idea, you'll find a story, you'll find something interesting. And recently, I mean, a good example is I had to go to the Bhutan Telecom to, get some SIM card thing done. So I had to wait for the counter, you had those numbers. And there was this book about, the Japanese Association of Bhutan, how Japanese are associated to Bhutan. I was like, oh yeah, there is an association. I've always seen these cars called JICA. JICA is the project, which is the Japanese project here. But I never knew what association and how this association happened. And then I just flipped the book, and the whole history of the Japanese Association of Bhutan was there, which was pretty, interesting for me to read. So things like that, I mean, that excite you on a daily basis. Keep reading, reading and reading. And just don't read about just, very specific things. Just read about anything. I mean, you can even read about something which is happening in Latin America, as ma'am told, or something in Iran, or something in Philippines. Read about everything, read about all cultures, read about everything that you see. And ma'am already had told about the Ras, and I think we both always agree on this every time when we meet and when we do projects together, looking at beauty in everything. Beauty in a word, beauty in a pen. And today I was just, when I was looking at the screen, my eyes was just going like the way ma'am was, moving her hands. I always admire that, character of her, but every time I see, I kind of have a different perspective. And I still remember one time, we were traveling in an aeroplane, and the way she was just sleeping was like this. And then I said, ma'am, you're sleeping also. I mean, like a dancer, right? I mean, observe and be very curious, and also like, look at things which, which others don't see. But if you have to look at things which others don't see, you should have a little bit of knowledge, and that knowledge comes from reading, and reading about anything and everything. So I think that's one thing that I will add in my classes.
And Aditya ji and Nikhil, how about also this whole experience of pain and loss? That's so critical. Also kind of absorbing, so reading, and indulging poetry, and like Aditya said, observation, but also how really looking inside and interpreting your own, basic emotions, basic, raw, absolute raw. Just, again, uska ras ka swad लेना.
Yeah.
कि और वो बहुत एक मीठा रस होता है, मतलब even when you are like you are sad, you just know how how things are. The same little motives they mean something different that day. The same song is interpreted differently, isn't it, Aditya ji? I mean, the way, so you just have to get your conscience going, and how can that? And believe me, sometimes people think these are abstract talks. They think that kind of, how can curricula address it? It does, because जब आप संगत में होते हैं, today when we are sitting together, and that's also part of an artist, to hear and acknowledge the views of other people. And again, I'll repeat, art is political. I just, Aditya ji, saw this beautiful documentary. It's called Steps to Freedom, made by Ruan Magan. He's from Ireland. 7 years it took him. It seems the documentary is about dance, but actually he's traced the identity of Ireland in that 1.5 hours. By the end of it, you are telling yourself, oh my God. I mean, how come he even got to condensing it to 1.5 hours. But
Mm.
that is the spirit of a filmmaker, to be committed to that idea and yet to be open. So it's contradictory. You are committed, but you're also open to interpretation
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
exploring.
That reminds
I
me of a
think to
very
simplify, ma'am.
To simplify.
exactly.
Most difficult
Exactly.
is to simplify.
Most difficult. No, absolutely. This is an internal conversation in our team also. I also say that filmmakers are so unique that it is one community which can actually do years of research, years,
Yeah.
folders after folders, books after books, documents after documents, and then be able to find the beginning and a middle and an end
Yeah.
of a conversation that if we were to actually have a conversation about it, it will never finish. But actually a filmmaker is able to say that, okay, how is it going to start, where I need to hold my people in the middle, and what is it that I want to leave them with. So much of a processing, so much of a risk, so much of taking a stand for a topic is something that absolutely a filmmaking community does.
And there's
So
a difference. To document is not, I mean, so one is the documentation of it, and that doesn't mean the documentary, by the way.
yeah.
So just because we have gadgets with us, we have not become filmmakers, all of us.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, let's not fool
Let's not
ourselves at
confuse ourselves
all.
with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
at all. The
No,
filmmaker will really find, that वो कपड़ा बुनने की तरह है ना. So the weaving is what will work.
absolutely. I mean, if you have a phone which has a camera, that of course doesn't mean anything. Sure. So, okay. So, what we've been hearing from all the stalwarts, uh,
You say
let's
that
say,
once more stalwart, no, we'll be protesting, Aditya ji. What is this stalwart business?
okay, no stalwarts.
No
No
stalwarts.
stalwarts. No
No.
stalwarts.
Co-filmmaker.
Believe
I think
co-
Kinley's opinion is not heard this time.
Yeah.
Kinley's is
No,
failing.
but
Kinley, come
Kinley,
on.
if you'd like to add something,
You have
please
to-
do. We're all doing all abstract things of poetry and, please, Kinley, get to the business. Tell us.
so no. Hold on. I'll request. Hold on. So that the
Because
next
I will
question
tell
is,
you, because Kinley is nurturing a lot of young, minds here in Bhutan, a very new market out here. And I know, he's been guiding even my own students from the industry point of view. So he must be having a lot of inputs. And this is a very new space here. And
Yeah.
of course, cinema has been here for a long time. It's not that very new. Commercial cinema has been here, but the OTT platform, the smaller formats are really new for Bhutan. I think Kinley should speak now. Come on.
Thank you, Nikhil. I can only talk from the context of Bhutan. To be very honest, again, Bhutanese cinema, the mainstream cinema, is heavily influenced by Bollywood. So we have songs and dances, just like any other Bollywood film. So our mainstream films have songs and dances, and they're structured in a very similar, style. And over the years, I think our audience has also grown to like this kind of films. So our mainstream filmmakers are not able to depart from how they have been making films. So it's very heavily influenced by Bollywood. So at SAMU, again, what we are trying to do is strike a balance. Obviously, yes, we have to make films that cater to the audience, but also we are trying to inspire and encourage a young pool of independent art house filmmakers in Bhutan. Basically, again, for me, it's important. Also, I think it's very cultural. Why we tell stories. Very small population, 800,000 people, and again, we're stuck very inconveniently between two large nations, India and then China. So sometimes I feel like our narrative, our cultural narrative, coming from again the basic survival instinct. I think it's important that we tell Bhutanese stories that go beyond our borders. We have this very popular. This is my mentor, filmmaker, who always talks about when he talks about stories, telling stories in Bhutan. We have this phrase when we say telling stories, we say Suntani, and that basically means to release a story, to free a story. So in a way, I feel it's important for younger generation of Bhutanese filmmakers, to tell stories, Bhutanese stories, and again in a style and approach, that is unique, that's different, that's not again influenced by Bollywood or mainstream Hollywood films. So this is something that I encourage my fellow filmmakers, that collaborators that I worked with, hundreds of them, a lot of them young, some of them coming right out of colleges and all. So maybe, something that's in terms of style, that is different again, not sticking to the mainstream Bollywood or Hollywood style, something that we can call our own, maybe, Bhutanese film, something, So this is something that we are trying to do at SAMU. I know it's going to take a long while, but then for now, we have started this process.
Beautiful. So this is what happens at the film school. These are the kind of conversations, these are the kind of inputs, these are the kind of stimulations that we would imagine. And film school means at any point of our learning phase, at any moment when we are learning from one to another. I'm just using film school as a symbol, of a place where we're learning something specific to film, because we are a film festival and we're all talking about in the space of films. But I guess what all our panelists shared is exactly what they would tell to anybody who comes in contact with them. They would share, and that is what they would follow in their own life. And I'm sure all of us related to that, and there are some things that I picked it up right now and I'm going to brush upon and make it sharper for myself. There are things that I felt, yeah, I do that approach. I'm sure it's going to be the same for all of us. So this is, let's process this. I'm sure all of us must have made our own notes in whichever way we do, but this is the film school side, the learning side of it. Now let's jump and come to the market side, where our learnings have to shape up the point where we want whatever we are learning. It's never like we stop learning and start going to the market. It's all woven very beautifully, right? So let's jump from here. And Kinley, the question for you from the work side of is, like you just said, that you come from a country which has got a very small population, and if we compare it to any country in the world, especially India, of course, no comparison really. But when you started SAMU, which I am saying, let's treat it like a business, let's keeping the passion of storytelling and everything aside for 2 minutes. But let's say it's a business, which is, we are all in the business of making something, doing something, producing something. Now, when we come to business, the numbers become very important. So when you started off in a place like Bhutan, and it was the first, of course, there was no reference. There was no reference that you could give in your own land. How did you decide the kind of topics, the worthwhile durations, the genres that you would launch for SAMU for the first time?
As I said earlier, when we started SAMU, it was a very scary moment for me and my co-founder, who's also my partner, my wife. It was exciting also because we wanted to do something different, something that has not been done, was not there in Bhutan. So it was a totally uncharted territory for us. But then, we had very good models to look at. Netflix was there, Amazon Prime, and so many other, global OTT streaming platforms were there. So we did, borrow their ideas, looked at their models, and basically implemented here in Bhutan. So when we started, we really didn't have a reference point again, as Sonia rightly pointed out. So we went with a mixed bag of content. So for the first, I think, 6 to 1 year, it was basically a period of experimentation for us. So we put out a whole range of content out there, from rom-com series, because a lot of Bhutanese young people, especially, they watch K-drama, Korean drama series. So we also came up with something similar. So rom-com series, a lot of Bhutanese watch Bollywood films, Hollywood films. So again, commercial mainstream content, and of all genres. Last 1 year was basically a period of experimentation for us. But now, after 1 year, we have access to a significant amount of data, and we know what works, what does not work. So now, when we do our content planning, we look at this data. So, and our decisions are more or less, informed by this data now. There's this huge demand for romantic comedies, a huge demand for series. So we are now focusing, on this kind of content. Yes.
Beautiful. So I think what you're saying is, when there was no reference point, there was a reference somewhere in another land, let's say from a different place, the Amazon and the Netflix. But because the target audience is very critical to any content consumption, that is where it was new to Bhutan. So you went with a mixed batch. You went with your own guess and assessment. Sorry, Vimla, your camera has gotten on accidentally. Can I request you to switch it off in case? Yeah, thank you. I mean, if you're switching it on, switch it on properly. All right. So Kinley, you were saying that when you didn't have like a good enough reference and a data backed way to go about a launch, then you went with your intuition, and you went with a mixed kind of an approach to have a little bit of various things, and then you wanted to watch from that, of what gets picked up, what do people watch, how much do they watch. And now that you have enough data over a year, then you are able to take a more informed decision. Is that correct?
Exactly, Sonia.
Right. So, I mean, again, just bringing it up to our community here, what we can take from what Kinley is sharing is that when we're all doing new things all the time, so when we're doing new things, go with the intuition, do like mixed bags things. If you not share, then not to get influenced by any one thing in particular, but play. Just let it play. When we play, some things will show us it's working, not working, it's going in the direction that we want it to or not. Some things will not work out, and we will know that it's not working out. And the second thing is, I know data is like a very new word, so to say, but what it means is collect the patterns, collect the feedback, collect, look whichever way, whatever we are doing depends on whichever way we can get a feedback. But be open to feedback, look for feedback, don't wait for somebody to give you the feedback, but go seek the feedback. And that's the data. And once we have that data, once for each of our firms, for each of our things that we do, that data will help us make a choice. We may take the direction where the data is pointing us or not, our choice, but it will at least show us what's coming from the other side of the fence. And that is something that we as creators sometimes get limited with, because a feedback is subjective, is sometimes hurt, it's not something what we want to go for. But it's good to be able to build ourselves to that level that we're able to take those feedbacks. Lovely. So we have actually covered a lot of conversation from the learning space of ours to our working space. When we go out there, we execute things. Now our panel, people in our panel are successful people. Successful because they are doing what they want to do, and they are doing it consistently. They're doing it happily. They have a context to what they're doing, why they're doing. So there must be something that's going for them. Just like there is something for going for everybody here in this discussion today. There is something that's always are winning for us. That some things that make us win. So Nithil, what are your success habits? Yes, you've been caught off guard. What are your success habits?
I mean, I mean, like, I don't know. Success is again subjective.
No,
Right.
habits. What I mean, I'm success as in what are your habits that lead you to success in a way you define success? Not talking in a particular. I'm not visualizing it any particular direction. So if having meals on your plate and a room to sleep in is success, so be it. If being respected and loved is success, so be it. Like whichever way you define. But what I'm curious about is which habit of yours do you think takes you to being successful?
Whether I've been successful or not, that's a big thing. I mean, like, I cannot talk about success here. But yeah, I mean, like, whatever I'm striving to be, I would say
Sure.
it's not.
Yeah.
It's not specifically, restricted to success as such.
Right.
It can be considered success. It can be anything. But what,
Sure.
as a human being, what I'm trying to strive, probably yes. One of the main things is, I think, passion. I mean, a lot of people who come and say that, I'm very passionate about photography. I'm very passionate about filmmaking. But how deep is your passion? I mean, like, how far will you go to, do things for what you really think is right? That's what matters a lot. I mean, if as a teacher for me, like, if I can like go to the extent to, make sure my student, gets what he wants in terms of the knowledge and the information that is required, even if it has to be, the other way around, not the, the normal way. And if I have to like, go a little away from the normal to, get that thing done, I think that's what passion is all about. You cannot be like restrictive to a certain pattern or a certain structure. You have to just go out of your way to make things happen on what you believe is right. I mean, that is also very important. I think that way, more as a storyteller, I would say that, I always believed that if the stories that I tell in class, I mean, like, as part of my, journey and as part of my course and as part of, trying to trigger something from the students, into their minds, if I'm able to get one or two stories, which are powerful enough from them, I mean, that probably can, measure out to be a little bit of success. But then, yeah, you have to be persistent with what you do. You have to be honest about what you do. And I think we should be really, you have to go out of your way to, get things done. Otherwise, I think things won't happen. I mean, you can do the way it has been structured, the way it has been, people say, oh, this is how you have to do, this is how you have to do, this is how you, maybe you'll just be a normal person, but you have to go out of your way. That's what I think matters.
Superb. So passionate, but chase your passion. You have to chase your passion. Otherwise, just being passionate may not really push ourselves to the next level. Aditya ji, what is your success habit?
Again, success is a four-letter word. I don't believe in it. I don't know what success is, right? But yeah, two things, certainly, 2-3 things. One is focus. From the day I decided to do what I want to do, I'm still doing the same thing. It still excites me. The process of filmmaking still excites me. And as long as it excites me, I think, and I have created an ecosystem for myself where I'm free to do what I want to do. Yeah, that for me is success. Irrespective of what I'm getting out of it or not getting out of it, as long as I'm able to function the way I wish to function, as long as I'm able to do what I enjoy, I love doing what I'm doing, and I'm contributing somewhere to to the world at some level, fundamental level. Yeah, that's, and I consistently do that. I consistently make it a
Beautiful.
point to keep doing that. Being here, I think, is part of the same process.
Absolutely,
So
exactly.
as
I
long
was
as I
about
can
to
do
say.
that, and as long as I can touch some lives and help people learn a few skills and maybe, I don't know, give them careers, or at least make them start thinking in a certain way, open up their minds to observe and learn and read and be a part of a different way of looking at life. That's success, irrespective of what I'm getting out of it. So कर्मण्य वादिका रस्ते माँ फलेषु कदाचन, काम करे जाओ, जो होगा देखी जाएगी. जब तक काम कर सकते हो, भगवान ने आपको क्षमता दी है काम करने की, तब तक सक्सेस ही सक्सेस.
That's what you can do. Huh. Beautiful. So you're saying focus. You also touched about being contributing to society, to people that you can. But that those are like your persistent habits that you chase. Beautiful. Gauri, you've got so many of them.
I'll make it as short as possible. So I think what I've understood of the question is that if you're in the creative industries, what could be the habits to inculcate, to kind of be successful in however you define success.
But this is a specific question for you. Like, what are your habits?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
my habits would be that, to me, in everything there's something to learn. So when people give me tasks which are as mundane, somehow the mind is wired that I said, okay, what can I think that has become a habit over time, which leads me to validate that it's helped me being successful. Successful in the sense that whatever I pitch to someone else, they feel that it comes from solid grounding. For example, I had never done festival directorship ever, but when somebody posed that, my habit will be, let me try. I think, risk taking, let me try, but I know at the end of the day, on the other side, there is something that will change. So I go with that optimism, and well, lo and behold, that's exactly how it happens. The universe connives to actually make me learn.
Sorry.
You're on
So-
mute.
Yeah, sorry. So basically, so put yourself in a situation that has come your way and then give your best.
Yeah, don't be afraid. And not every time you can calculate everything. I envy people who are able to do it. I have failed miserably, even with the marriage and children and families. I don't know how people can get that formula right. There is no formula.
There's no formula. Yeah. Beautiful. Kinley, anything on your mind? Your success habit?
For me, I think the last 1 year has been extremely painful journey as a creative entrepreneur, because we had to face a number of challenges, overcome. We are very small. We have a very small market. The technology here is still, poor. The cost of internet is so high. We have the highest internet cost in the region here. So, all these barriers and challenges were up against us. There are a lot of odds. And what I have realized is in the last 1 year, a little more than 1 year, what really brought our company, and even me here is, I think, the quality of resilience. I think I would say, I think you'll have to be resilient. Yes, life will knock you down, but then you pick yourself up. The next morning, you get up and then face the world. So this is something very simple that I do. I get up and say like, yeah, I'm ready to face the world. Come what may. So this is a very personal habit. Basically, mindset that I try to cultivate. But at the level of our company, as the first OTT platform in Bhutan, we try to cultivate an entrepreneurial mindset among all of us who work at SAMU, and also our collaborators and production partners, which is basically, I think, to find creative, solutions to problems. We face problems every day. in production also, like, a lot of films are in production, and then we keep getting calls from, our production manager, the director, the producer. And then I always tell them, come on, think of something, come up with creative solutions yourselves. I think this is something that's important as a business, and also as an artist, as a filmmaker. I think that we have a solution-oriented mindset. And then, of course, very important thing for me to be resilient. Yes.
Beautiful. So resilient, having a solution-oriented mindset, not just for yourself, but also allowing other people, giving the space to other people to cultivate solutions, to bring out solutions to a problem that they could have just left it as a problem, and it would have just been you who has to solve it. That takes a lot, actually, Kinley, because a lot of us at the leadership role end up at some point or the other saying that, okay, I better do it the way I think I know how to do it. But to hold on for a minute, to let others become a part of the collaborative process at that point is very, very special. So again,
Sonia, can I also
that-
add one thing to it?
of course,
Which is that for a filmmaking community, not to associate any task with with dignity of labor. That is also a habit that all of us have. So it's Kinley, Nitil, Aditya, or me. I think we haven't voiced it, but to associate a certain work with a certain status is incorrect in this medium. So if you are really interested in the filmmaking domain, even if you get the most minuscule of task, just respect it and do it, and it'll be a changing it's a game changing attribute for success.
very
It is an
aptly.
egalitarian industry, and it must be.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, Aditya, young people do this mistake that they get an opportunity, but they feel that there's
This
so
is
many of
not my
my
job.
students.
This is
Yeah,
below my dignity.
yeah, this is below, or maybe
Unfortunately, the way you and I were brought up, we were
Yeah.
not given that luxury to not
Yeah.
pick and choose which department you're a part of. That's
yes,
the way we were brought up.
yes.
Yeah.
Also to think that, oh, this is meaty and this is not meaty. My suggestion to all young filmmakers in the room will be, do not hesitate. Do not hesitate, because the moment you're part of that landscape, you never know on that day which person you meet, who in the next 6 months ends up being your associate. So one habit definitely all of us have. I'm convinced all of us have, and that's why we are on this panel here today.
I second what sir and ma'am told, but also one thing, as a habit, I mean, this is a very funny habit that I have, and I also tell all my students, is do not get up and walk away after watching a film if you're a filmmaker till the last credit goes off the screen. And please, ma'am told about respect. I think the respect comes there. You are a filmmaker, you're watching a film, you don't walk away, even if the entire theater walks away. Please stand there, give respect to even the last person, the auto driver or the car driver or the tea person whose name goes in the credit. I think that's again a habit that I have inculcated. And I always tell my students, and when we watch films in the class also, I usually tell that, no, let's not walk away, let the entire credit just, scroll. So that's something like a habit. It's because you asked about a habit, it just came to my mind.
And Nitil, this habit is also associated to the title of the day, film to film market, because it's also with the credits that you notice the pulse of the association, the collaboration, the co-production, the market, the production scale. Everything is almost cryptic in that credit roll. And Aditya ji is the right person actually also to talk about the market space, on how you should, it should be a habit to, it's not just within the team, but also across teams to collaborate is a good habit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, very, very rightly put, like as a dichotomy, people prefer to be directors rather than the production manager because it sounds cool that I am a director, but I'm definitely not pointing out at anybody, but just saying culturally what one has seen and heard around, right? And that's a thing to say, like in a habit forming conversation, what we're talking about is Why? You know, can a production manager be removed from the production and yet the production will happen? Is it an arm that you don't need? If not, then why are you not that person? And what and how, as a director of the ship, how as the captain of the ship, can you even lead it if you don't know any of that? I mean, exactly like what Aditya ji said, the kind of times that we have come from, we have been made to run to get the black. We had no idea where was black, but we had been made to run to get to that. For several shoots, we have only offered tea and coffee, in spite of being an associate. But I guess that did us all well, in that situation, that there was no hierarchy, there was no thing. But it does come up. It's not like saying that people from our times haven't had that at all, but very beautifully put, saying it sounds general, but it's a personal habit. It boils down to individual, whether you're staying back for the entire credit roll to finish or not, whether you are up for taking all the things in the production or not. Beautiful. All right, so that's a whole pack of learning from the film school to the film market. Now let's shift focus to our filmmakers here at Malhar Film Festival. We are going to do a very interactive session with the panelist, but the session includes some statements, some comments and feedbacks that we have from the curators and the jury members about your films. We're not talking about which film. I have no idea which film's comments I'm going to read. But these are feedbacks and comments that came as a part of the jury process. It doesn't matter whether it's of yours or not, because you're not going to get to know about it, right? The exercise that we're doing here is that from the panelist, if this is a comment being put across them about somebody's film, what is it that they will tell us to go look for? So they have except Nithil, nobody has watched any on the panel, nobody else has watched films of Malhar. So it is not subject to any film. Okay, so I'll explain that further. Panelist, here are some of the feedbacks from our curation and jury panel. I know you have not seen these films, and I'm not naming the specific films here intentionally, but in your capacity, in the capacity of an educator, an academic, a professor, a teacher, a filmmaker, a film passionate, a film enthusiast, if these are the kind of words that come across you, what approaches can the filmmaker take to make their work better? Because it may not just be about this one particular film. This particular aspect might be showing up in their habit, in their way of working things. So I'm going to read out one statements. Just anybody unmute yourself and say what comes to your mind and what is it that you will tell another filmmaker if you had this comment in front of you. All right. So first point, one of the feedback was good sound work, decent presentation, message did not come across clearly. So decent sound work, good presentation, message did not come out clearly.
So Sonia, to me, that would mean that there was no assimilation between the content and the form, which means that the idea and the apparatus, so technique. To me, this statement would mean that the jury felt that the idea and the technique that was used to convey the idea has not worked well. So technically, and this happens to also a lot sometimes, a mainstream film that we see, that everything is right about the visual, yet it doesn't hit you in the heart. Yeah. And just for those who may, I'm sure that this August audience understands content and form, just getting theoretical. Let's say we want to, show the face of a child. Now, there may be somebody who wants to knit, with strings, the face of a child. There may be somebody who wants to use charcoal to make a sketch of the child. And there may be another person who actually paints it on oil with watercolor, whatever it's called, oil on canvas. The content remains the child, but it's the interpretation that will make huge difference. It's just a simple analogy, but basically the comment means this, that the symbiosis of content and technique did not happen. Technically the sound was strong, the presentation was strong, but it didn't hit. And Sonia, I need to apologize. It's my son's birthday. If you allow, can I leave?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You want to leave now?
Yeah.
Is that
because,
yeah?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you. I know we've gone over time, but the conversation was so engaging that we just flew with it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
absolutely.
So apologies, Aditya ji, Nikhil and Kinley. And apologies, Sonia, but there's some events that you can't
Of
miss.
course,
I
of
wish
course.
everybody well. And just want
Thank
to
you so
also
much.
announce that I will be sharing the call with all of you
Yeah.
about the festival, the IBOT Asian Women's Film Festival. And I'll
Yeah.
be very grateful if women in the house who have made films can answer the call and send their films. Thank you so much.
Sure,
Apologies.
sure.
Yeah.
Thank
Happy
you.
birthday, ma'am, and God
Happy
bless your
birthday,
son.
boy.
Yeah, I'm the mother of a 20-year-old, so thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, bye.
Thank you,
Okay,
Gauri.
man.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Wish him a very, very happy birthday on
Will
my
do.
behalf.
Thank you.
And regards to Tashi as well.
Okay. So moving on to the next comment. So guys, I hope you're clued in because it could be about anybody's film, but the feedback is this. I hope, not the panelists, but the community, all of you as filmmakers, are you with me on the question, why are we doing this? Okay, this is a feedback that is saying something. And we're not talking about a particular film here. We're talking that if something like this is communicated, where is the area of work? Right? So if somebody says that the message did not come across clearly, then what Gauri said is one of the ways to look at it. All right, moving on to the second one. I suppose cinema as a powerful medium of storytelling has a larger purpose to play. The story is never important. How you tell the story is what shapes the minds and hearts of the audience. In this film, somewhere, this is what needed some more thinking by the maker of this film. The story is never important. How you tell the story is what shapes the minds and hearts of the audience. And in this particular film that the jury member reviewed, said that was not whole and complete for him or her.
Basically, that means that there's been a disconnect between the script to screen. The visualization has been compromised. So the story made sense, the script made sense, but the interpretation visually on screen did not justify what the story was trying to say fundamentally. So I think it basically what the jury is trying to say is that they need to work more on the visualization and the application visually. So cinematic, the cinematic craft needs to be worked more upon, and it needs to be given more thought to justify what the script is trying to say, because it's not coming across visually as apparently as they hope that what they're trying to say through the script. So there's a disconnect between the script and the visual.
Fair. Anything else, panelist? Anything additional that comes to your mind with that feedback?
I think this is the missing link, which we find in modern, stories. Brilliant stories. There are amazing, stories that are, they come up. There are so many people who write very well, but I think they lack the depth to, express it. I mean, of course, here the tool becomes very important. The filmmaking tool. I mean, we are using different techniques of audio and video. But apart from that, that's what I said. I mean, the sensitivity in writing and the depth in writing. I mean, I also insisted that, you have to read. Now, reading is one bit of filmmaking. The next one is about writing, which many people don't do. And if they write it, and if they can put it in words, they have already pre-visualized everything. And then everything falls in place, and then the presentation will not be a big issue, and I think even once Steven Spielberg told in one of his interviews, 90% of my work is over when I'm done with my screenplay. The shooting and post-production is just 10%. So
Hmm.
when you write, and you have to really put in your effort. I think that's the problem here. Maybe they had excellent, techniques, or probably they might have written well, but they have not thought about what they have written, or they have not put in their effort, or probably the one who wrote did not make the film, or there's some kind of a disconnect there. So it has to come from within. Everything has
Yeah.
to come from within.
If I may add, sir, to what you've said, this is one
Please.
thing which I found with many students over the years, that there's a lot of assumption in the writing. And then when it comes to application, they assume that what they've written is going to come across the way their shot breakdown is, or the way they're shooting the scene. But unfortunately, it does not translate into the visual which they've imagined to be. Which is why, to a large extent, I think storyboarding helps a lot. But many students don't want to do it because it's a lot of hard work. So they kind of try and move away from it. But I think for students, especially for the 5 or the 10-minute narrative, storyboarding is one very good tool which should be exercised by everybody. But we have done it
Yes.
when we were growing up, kind of thing. At
Yes.
least
Yeah.
when you know what your film is going to look like eventually. So your shots are kind of worked out, your cameraman is briefed, your image size is in place, the lighting is in place. So a lot of I think 50% of the conversion of script to screen is taken care of right there and then. Other than that, yes, you're absolutely right. If you write yourself, and if you're the director or the author yourself, then you cracked it. But if you don't, and you're trying to apply somebody else's vision, then there's always a disconnect, unfortunately. And there's a lot of assumption with kids, because kids are very impatient.
Yeah.
They don't pay attention to detail. But that's the
Attention to
biggest,
detail comes in writing.
handicap.
Yeah, attention to detail comes in writing, and as you said, later in the storyboarding stage. So
That's right.
if this is done right, I think anybody can make fantastic films, and this
Absolutely.
disconnect, what was mentioned in the comment, won't happen.
Beautiful. Next point. Weak storytelling, predictable from start to end. Predictable. So if a film ends up feeling predictable, what is it that you will tell the filmmaker?
You want to throw this to Kinley? I mean, he's been working
Sure.
with predictable scripts for a while, so I'm sure he'd have an input here.
Kinley, what would you say that if a film is given a feedback that it's predictable from beginning to end?
I think the fundamental flaw again here would going back to what Ma'am Gauri talked about, content versus form. Again, getting your dramatic premise right. I think it's important from the beginning. You understand what your story is about, and whose story it is, and where it is happening, and then comes how you're going to tell the story. So that I would understand as content, and putting this content into a proper dramatic structure, I think, is very important, so that we address this problem of predictability. If you're trying to tell a story, which is a suspense thriller, and if your audience finds out from the beginning, that this is what is going to happen, or is likely going towards this. So I think it's not going to be fun. So I feel as storytellers, we need to understand the craft of storytelling. Screenwriting, I think, comes in here. How you structure your story. Of course, there is a beginning, middle, and end, but not necessarily you follow that chronology again. It depends on how you want to tell that story. So fundamentally, I think needs to really go back to the fundamentals of storytelling, screenwriting, and how you structure your story.
Can I add on?
Yes, please.
So this classic example, the recent example of my classroom is I screened two different films. Primarily, they are the same story. It's a love story, basically. Life is Beautiful was the first film, right? It's about life, love for his son and his wife. So it's a family drama, And then I screened this film, Labor of Love, the Bengali film, Aditya Sen Gupta's, film. And then I asked the class to, define, this is the same thing. Both are love stories, but how is it being presented? The way that, both the films have been presented, it's the same story, but, the way it has been made is very, very different. And both the films are very unpredictable if you watch it the first time. But it's a love story. It's the normal routine, love story that we see in Bollywood. It's the same,
But Nitin,
content.
if a person is making a story which ends up looking predictable, what's happening with this person?
So it's
It's a
basically
done to death narrative. I'm sorry, but it's a
Huh?
done to death narrative. There is no newness in the narrative. It's a narrative which people. Cinema has been there for more than 100 years. So there's been various expositions in the audiovisual realm for many moons, right?
Right.
If you're
Right.
going to keep watching a repetitive narrative, which we have already an association of viewing or engaging with at a certain point in time, it will become predictable. And it's become more and more
so the person is
becoming
not
more and more
thinking.
challenging over a period of time to create unpredictable stories.
Right.
Yeah.
So
But it
basically
can
the
be the
person.
same. It can be the same. I mean, stories are always same all across the
Yeah.
world. But what is the
Yeah.
freshness that you give to your story becomes
Yeah.
that's the
The
unpredictability
perspective.
you bring to your film, the mystery. That's what I gave these two examples, right? It's the same story. If you look at it like structure, I mean, if you look at it generally, it's love stories, right? I mean, but how they have made it unpredictable, the end, especially in both the films, the way they have
Right.
treated the film, and then visually how everything goes. So that freshness is what is missing, and I think it's more to do with copy pasting, character nowadays. They're so influenced by Bollywood and Hollywood and mainstream cinema. For them, a guy who is failed in love is always got the Devdas look, and he's always smoking ganja. So it's very predictable, right? You know it. I mean, the next scene after the love failure is that he's sitting in a dark corner in a room and smoking ganja, right? So or
Right.
drinking liquor. So that becomes very predictable. Why don't you show it differently? How can you show it differently? Bring a freshness to that same thing. Yes, of course, we are all heartbroken at some point of time in our lives. Probably
Yeah.
show it in a different way. Then make it unpredictable to the audience. That's what I meant.
Beautiful. Just the last one here. Unreal portrayal of the issue, far from reality. Now, reality is subjective. Everybody's realities are different, right? But if after watching a film, the person who reviewed the film says that it's an unreal portrayal of the issue and it's far from reality, and suppose this person's feedback matters to the filmmaker, one approach we can say is that it's okay, the person has a different experience of life, you can take it or leave it. Now suppose this person wants to take it because it's coming from a person that matters, but it says that it's far from reality. What would you suggest the filmmaker to look at?
I wish I'd seen the film, honestly, because it depends on what the film is trying to say. The film may be a fantasy or an experimental work, or it just may be the author's interpretation of a certain situation. So everything doesn't necessarily have to be steeped in reality. That's the beauty of cinema, especially experimental
Right.
films where we are kind of trying to push the envelope as far as perceiving dimensions is concerned. So I can't comment on this, and this is what I wanted to say when you started this exercise, is we haven't seen the films.
Yeah,
Some
yeah,
of
yeah.
the comments may not necessarily be very fair. to the
No, it's
filmmaker.
coming out. Allow me to speak on that. See, that's the beauty of your experience. That if you would see that film, of course, it will be subjective to that particular film, right? But what's coming across in all of your conversation is the importance of a narrative, the importance of script to screen connectivity, the importance of holding on, finding the core of the story. So like what I am listening to it is that even if we are not talking about a particular film or a particular narrative, particular script in mind, but it is still these particular things that have a meaning. These words are very clear. So if sometimes when we get feedback, we become very harsh on those, saying that why are you saying the message is not clear, or why the visual symbolism seems doubtful to you, because we are seeking something very specific. We're trying to fix it in that story, right? The idea of this exercise was to say that there might be things about the person, that the way of looking at it, the way of approaching the storytelling as a process, that might need more work, and not just a particular story, because those habits will re-emerge into different stories.
There can be two
brilliant. So
ways of
Yeah.
interpreting this. I'm sorry if I've interrupted
No.
somebody, an apology.
No, please.
One is that maybe the person reviewing wasn't able to accept a new interpretation or a new narrative around his or her own experience of life or
Yeah.
whatever they've seen.
Yeah.
The other could be maybe the filmmaker got it completely wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe their own interpretation was not necessarily within the realms of acceptability, if I may say that, of the
Yeah.
situation. But like I said, I've not seen the film, so it could go either
No,
way.
so
Yeah.
absolutely. So that brings us to the point that film as a medium is subjective, and so
Yeah.
one's reality could be very different from the other person's reality, and that's also the way it is. That we will not, when we tell a story, we will not be able to. Everybody will not be able to relate to it. So
Yeah.
finding a right audience also becomes imperative to that, and also being open to taking a feedback that okay, I didn't relate to it, is also very possible. Again, saying to what
I think the
similarly
biggest example is Godard. If you watch Godard's
yeah,
film,
go down.
a lot
Yeah.
of films at the end of watching the film, you feel so bloody angry. What is this guy trying to do with me? He's really messed
Yeah.
with me as an audience. But then that's the whole point of Godard's films, right? He's constantly trying to challenge you as an audience, and he's challenging his own narrative. It really depends on where you're coming from, which time and space you're in, and who's reviewing your film as to what you're trying to say. So I think the three aspects to this whole thing. Yeah.
Beautiful. Anything on your mind, Kinley, Nitin, to that? Or we've covered?
No, yeah, I mean, I think so was right. I mean, it should be looked at it from the point of view of the filmmaker also. Then we have to watch the film. I mean,
Yeah.
if the filmmaker is forcing himself to, tell something real with very unreal situations, then this comment, really matters, because it could be a very positive, constructive comment. But if the filmmaker is actually, he's really in a fantasy world and he doesn't really care about logic and things like that, and then this
Yeah.
comment might be wrong from the reviewer's perspective. So it depends on the story and the narrative.
Absolutely. So just a takeaway is that it could be either ways. Even like we are talking about one reviewer here, right? But when the film is out, there are millions of people reviewing it. So one review could also be like that, and we just have to learn. My point of putting this point was to just, you may agree, you may not agree, but it could be a feedback, and we have to learn how do we figure out from that. All right. Now the panel is open. We'll go on for another 5 minutes. We've already overshot our time, but if there are questions on your mind, you want to run it by anybody, particularly in the panel or to the panel in general, please share.
Hi, this is Shuramo. I'm from Kolkata. I had a question like, so basically what happens is I think that when we work with absurdism in films, many a times what happens, especially in India, is that those films are not accepted well. But I've seen like the same kind of films when are being made in other countries, they are quite being acceptable. So is this does this mean that India is still kind of trying to accept absurdism in cinema, or is it okay to the audience?
You're talking about abstractism?
No, absurdism.
What is it?
Absurd.
Absurd.
Is that an ism called absurdism?
Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of a ism called absurdism. So, I mean, I'm just trying to clarify what you're telling.
The theater
We
of the
haven't. I mean, I don't know. I mean, sir, have you come across this word?
Yeah. Theater of the absurd. Beckett
Okay,
was
okay.
the primary proponent of absurdism. It was an extension of existentialism, which was proposed by Jean-Paul Sartre. He started this philosophy called existentialism, and absurdism took it a step beyond that, where Beckett was the primary proponent. Waiting for Godot is one of his most popular plays, where basically you keep waiting for God and God never comes. That's the foundation of it. So life is absurd. You live to die. The moment you're born, there is as far as Beckett was concerned, there's already an epitaph waiting for you. There's a piece of ground where you're going to be buried, and you're just breathing and going through life, which is completely meaningless. That is the primary theory behind absurdism. That life is meaningless. We're just born to die, and we have to go through the motions till we eventually die. And we keep waiting for Godot. Why I'm saying Godot repeatedly is because that was his most, primary work, which was accepted worldwide and which made absurdism what it is as a known thing, especially in theater of the absurd. So yeah, that's where absurdism comes from. So you want me to answer this, gentleman?
Yeah, I would just like to have your take on it.
I think it primarily comes from cultural background, primarily comes from understanding what our exposition of entertainment, of the way we construct our narratives, of the way our stories are told, what is our ethos of storytelling. In our ethos of storytelling, I think absurdism is part of our lives. We don't have to classify it and take it as a separate compartment of narrative. We live that on a daily basis, because if you look at what the Indian narrative primarily is that we are here, we are only on this earth to move to another life, and eventually move to another life till we get moksha and we get nirvana and we get out of the cycle of birth and rebirth. So life itself is absurd for us. We don't have to define it as an absurd thing. Whereas in the West, all these various movements, from surrealism to Dadaism to existentialism to absurdism, these were challenging the norm. These were deviant movements. Because of the various things that the West went through. They went through the world wars, they went through their depression, they went through the economic recession, they went through moving from an organic stage to an industrial stage. Every time they moved, there was a crisis at various parts of the world in the West. So the artists or the people who were writers or playwrights, or who were kind of indulging in different kinds of performing arts or exposition, they, to grapple with what was happening in their time, had to go beyond the narrative which was in front of them, which was drastically scary, to say the least, and very difficult to grapple with for community at large, because people were going through hell in these changing processes of times in the West over a period of time. So all the thought and the movement were against or questioning or a deviance to the accepted norm. They refused to accept the norm. They refused to go with what was happening around them. They refused to go with this whole mechanization, industrialization, conspicuous consumption that was being proposed to people, without people necessarily having the money or the wherewithal to be able to live with it. So all these art movements challenged that norm, which the state was shoving down their throat, which is where all these movements came up. So for us, these things are part of our ethos. We don't separate them from our lives. We are all absurd in our own ways. We all have existentialisms and existential traumas in our own ways. We all live with angst. You understand what angst is? A-N-G-S-T?
Angst. Yeah.
If you know what absurdism is, you should know what angst is, right? So we all live with it. It is within our ethos. It is within our philosophy of life. It is within the way we have been brought up for centuries. So we don't necessarily have to separate that from ourselves and say, okay, we need to make a film about this. So you can go ahead and make a film about it, but you need to remember how we consume our stories. Because stories are going to be determined by the way they are consumed, not by the way they are made. So you need to look at what your audience is. You need to look at what they want to consume. You need to look at what works for them. Right? The moment we say, like this whole talk, this whole session says film school to film markets. So the moment you say film markets, you're recognizing the fact that it's a market-driven industry. You're not making a film as an esoteric exercise. You're making a film for an audience. You need to understand your audience, who you're making your film for. However experimental your film may be, it is yet to be consumed by an audience. You're not making it for yourself to sit with your wife in a drawing room and say, look what a great film I made. No, you're making it to share it with others because you want to say something. You have some sort of a message, be it education, be it documentation, be it entertainment, be it bizarre, be it absurd, be it XYZ, whatever. So the moment you say you're going to make a film to share with an audience, you need to understand what is the audience you're making the film for and how are they going to consume it and what is their socio-economic or socio-historic perspective on consumption of entertainment. What is the history or the culture of consumption of entertainment, of film in this case? What works for an audience at a mass level or at a niche level? So to say that why doesn't absurd work in India and why does absurd work in the West? Because absurd in the West is a separate style, type of exposition, of entertainment, of performance. We don't have that classification in our country, which is why it doesn't work. But you can bring in elements of absurdism into a regular narrative. That will work. See, here you got to make a Formula 44 one way or the other. There has to be masala. There has to be entertainment. There has to be, a song and a fight and the rest of it, and some masala. It's how you weave it in. Like Sir has said earlier, it is all about the presentation. It is how you weave the narrative in. In that, you can bring in any philosophy, no problem, as long as the narrative works. And the audience is willing to accept. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah?
Yes,
Yeah?
absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That was
My pleasure.
beautiful. All
And Sumarya,
right.
I'm sorry, initially I didn't get your question as well. And then, of course, the concept. So thanks to you that I learned a new thing today. And thanks to Surf for really being very explanative. I'm really happy that I'm learning so much today.
I've studied this in college, so I know all about this. I'm an English literature student, so absurdism was part of my third year degree course.
Yeah, but surrealism and existentialism, but absurdism was pretty new to me because of course we see surreal cinema and all of those Russian movements and everything, but absurdism was quite new to me. And thanks to you, Sylvia. I mean, like we are also
Beckett, sir, Google Samuel Beckett.
No, Samuel Beckett I have learned, but I know this whole concept
Samuel
of
Beckett
absurdism.
is the father of absurdism, especially theater of the absurd. He was the most proponent of absurdism.
Yeah, but I've read him in in phases of my graduation, but not gone into details of it.
Right.
But thanks to Sumarya, I mean it's really enlightening for me.
Yeah.
I'll definitely learn more.
Excellent perspective brought in. I think we all learned a completely new different thing. Very great, good question, and thank you that Aditaji is here to have that cleared for us. Beautiful.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So I guess
Really nice.
I guess everybody else is quite soaked into the conversation because I don't see any other chat message, which is totally fine. We've had a very loaded conversation. Anytime later, if you have any of the questions for the panelists, you can obviously write to us and we'll try and run it by the panelists. If they have something to say, I'm sure they will respond to that. So I know we've really overshot it. Just to conclude it, last question, panelists, each of you, what do you want to be remembered for?
Sir, after you.
No. What was the question? I think I lost the question. So
Question,
Sonia,
Nikhil,
can you
is
repeat it, please?
yeah, the question is, what do you want to be remembered for? I love that
You
expression.
don't put us in a. I mean, we're just filmmakers here. I mean, and we are academicians. As simple as that. Don't put too much of philosophy into our head.
No,
We
this
don't
is,
think about all these things. That's all I can say.
but okay, now that you have it, you can think about it now. And at this moment, I know you've not thought about it. It's not the way you think, but I mean, everybody is remembered by somebody in some other way. But if you are being asked, well, what is it that you will want to be remembered as or for?
I think a simple
Remembered for?
human being. Yeah, that's it.
Beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there doesn't have to be like any major philosophical answer to it, but sure, I'm sure. Kinley, what about you?
I think Kinley is off.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
There was some issue in internet in Bhutan, I think. No, he's here. Yeah.
It's a difficult question, definitely. I think for us at SAMU, a small group of people trying to do something different, in a very small country with very limited resources and also a very limited number of creative professionals in the industry. I think for us, what is very important right now is, and hopefully, this is something that we would like to achieve in the years to come. Create a very vibrant creative ecosystem. Definitely, that's number one for us. Maybe if we can manage to do that, in the next few years, I think we would like to be remembered for that. But more than that, I think to create, a different form of cinema for Bhutanese, maybe a new wave, introducing, the new wave in the Bhutanese cinema, because we are still, very much, deeply, I think, the way we tell stories, we're very deeply influenced by, mainstream, Bollywood or Hollywood, now Korean also, cinema. So hopefully, we would like to do, we like to, create, in some ways, Bhutanese new wave. Hopefully, yes.
Wow.
And I can second him on that, and hats off to Kinley, because I'm an audience for him, because I subscribe to Sabu and I watch a lot of content. What they are doing is kind of translated, in their content basically. The new wave is really picking up here, and I think, sir, also I think if you have any chance, please do watch the Bhutanese films. I know I'm completely an outsider for this world, but it's a new world altogether that is evolving here, and thanks to Kinley and his team, I think it's really happening.
No, we would all love to have that. This is a whole bunch of filmmaking community here, and that's what I think. That's today evening itself. Me and Kinley were talking about. Now we'll move to the next leg where the Bhutanese films need to come out of Bhutan and be accessible to all of us to watch globally. So we're definitely going to create some or the other very simple ways to do that. Bhutan can't keep their films to Bhutan themselves. You have to share it. Sir, what about you?
What about me?
What do you want to be remembered for as?
Oh, we're still there. Okay.
Yeah, we're still there.
Yeah, I think I'm fairly clear about this. Whether it's a film I make, whether it's a course I teach, whether it's a session I do, whether it's the consultancies that I do, whatever I do, as long as I'm able to help whoever I interact with to demystify fundamentals, to understand certain things better, to be more at ease with the information overload, and if you're a practitioner, to be able to become a better practitioner, who is more ethical and who is actually able to see through all the bullshit and come up with something which is tangible and which makes sense and which helps somebody else through their communication. Yeah, that's what I'd like to be remembered for. Not as a person, but as the work I'm doing. If people can learn from the work I'm doing, me as a person, I'm irrelevant. Doesn't matter.
Fair. And these people, cool, doing whatever they're doing in their own capacities and clearly having a vision and a line of sight of what they're doing and why they're doing. So thank you, Aditya ji, thank you, Kinley, thank you,
Okay.
Nitil. Gauri is not
Thank you.
here, but thank you, Gauri. You've really brought in the whole world of film school to film market so nicely packed up in this session. I am sure it was a lot of learning and a lot of internalization for everybody here. So thank you for your time. Really means a lot to me that you came in for the Malhar Film Festival, a very small festival, a very independent efforts of ours, but means a lot. Thank you for taking out so much of your time.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Pleasure
Great
is ours, and thank you so much for bringing us together. And I
Absolutely.
think wishing all the filmmakers out here a wonderful, future ahead, and make wonderful, beautiful stories. Keep making it so that we keep enjoying it, watching it.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody, thank you for joining. I know we had only this schedule today, and my mistake, I had forgotten that you remember Brooke Elms had done a session with six of you consolidated. That session has to go to all of you. That was my understanding with Brooks, that recording can be played to all of you, and you can look at your own way of working, your own narrative style, your own ways as a filmmaker from that. And if you have then any questions for Brooks, it can be taken up. I'll take it up with Brooks. So so you're free to attend it, not attend it, but we're going to play that right after this. It is the ones with the 6 people who attended it. Some of them are here. Everybody had super wonderful things to say. They're probably one of the most powerful sessions. It really helped people. So take it for yourself. If you feel you want to go for it, come join the next session, look at it, and we will drop in a Google form in which you write your questions, which you would have for Brooks, and we will have that send it over to Brooks. So the link of that drive will be in the chat box there. Watch the session with Brooks. Send in your questions to him. All right. Okay. Let's do some soaking in. There are beautiful comments. Beautiful session. Ultimate session. Beautiful session. I've learned very precious information. Thank you so much. Nice. Zabardast session. Loads of information, knowledge. Thank you. Wonderful session. You all
Thank you,
are.
Sonia.
Hey, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Bernard, how was it for you? Did you understand?
Yes, but globally, it's very interesting.
It was very fast for you? Was the English too fast for you today?
No, but I understand the subjection of the term, the item. I think is item in English. I'm teacher in my life in France, and you have this afternoon a lot of there were teachers. I mean,
Sorry?
people who are talking about this afternoon. They are teacher.
Yes,
Of
yes,
professor.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
But I'm saying that is the same job I made
Wow.
in class. Yes, but it's very interesting.
Perfect. So you are able to relate with them being a teacher yourself. That's great. You all are, I mean, you're teachers, you're all filmmakers, but there is just so much to learn from each other all the time.
Yes,
So,
I make a lot of things. I think I don't know if I can put it in chat or in email. I have internet. I have a website, you know.
uh-huh. Website?
in the website. You can
Yeah.
see all things I do in movies, in music, or
Oh, sure.
voilà.
Sure.
I think for me it's more easy to show you by internet
Yes.
what I'm doing. So I don't know if I can put it in discussion of in email, but I want to send you this information.
So do that. Send us that information, and
Yes.
also put it on your profile on the Malhar Film Festival page, because
Yes.
everybody
Okay.
who watches your film goes to your profile page. So put your website link there also, so that people can all everybody who comes to your page on Malhar goes to
Mhm.
your website also.
Okay. I do that.
Yeah, that will be, we will love to watch, but let everybody watch it, whoever comes to your website, to your Malhar page.
Okay. No problem.
So lovely. Thank you everybody. Thank you panelists once again. Very, very grateful for your time, and please stay tuned with Malhar. It is tomorrow is the closing meet, so I'll obviously send you all an invitation, but try to make a time and join us in celebrating what we created over the last few months.
Okay.
Thank you and all the best to everyone.
you.
Thank you so much, all the filmmakers. Great
All
participation.
the very
Thank you.
best.
All the best.
Thank
the
you.
best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you everybody. The link for Brook session would be active on the site now. Whoever wants to watch it, let's jump over onto that.
Okay. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Bye.
Thank you. I'm
Bye.
sorry, I've forgotten one thing. Just the Malhar filmmakers. There have been some questions which have been coming to us for the consent form that we have sent out. I'll reply to them in the email. I don't seem to have that email with me right now. But basically, the consent form which has been asked is because if the people who are declared winners tomorrow, the films, for us to have NFT made out of the posters of their films, we needed to have consent, right?
Okay.
We cannot make an NFT without your consent, right? So
Okay.
and then the winners of Malhar, the biggest thing that Malhar is trying to put together is distribution network for all of you through different channels. So that form requires your consent for us
Okay.
to send your film to the distribution networks, to the OTT platforms. So everything that is there right now is mentioned in it. You need to
Okay.
read it carefully and tell us what you're okay with and what you're not okay with about your film, right? And that's that. Then we will move ahead. If you tell us don't do this with my film, we will not. If you say go ahead and put my film through these channels, we will. So it needs your consent. So read that very carefully and send us that. So that communication between us will happen few days later after we've got everybody's consents, because it's about 300 consents that we need, right? But
Okay.
don't get delayed. Send it as soon as possible, and we'll then send you the confirmation. Yeah, Surumo.
Yeah, so I had a
Okay, right.
deeper question to that. Do I talk to you later
Sure.
about that?
Yeah. Just email me. I'll not
Okay.
probably not be able to get on a call right now, considering that tomorrow is
Yes.
closing.
I
Just make.
actually send a voice note to Kritika.
Okay, I'll
Uh,
get that. I'll take it. Don't worry. Don't have to
Sure.
send it again. I'll
Okay.
respond to that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any questions regarding the consent and the feedback, do write to us, clarify it completely, but other than that, we are only asking you for your consent. Shall we send it to the distribution network? Shall we stream it at the OTT platform? Shall we put it here? Shall we put it so all the conversation that we've been having about spreading your films, we need to discuss with you, right? And please remember, this consent is for this stage. The moment any of the film is picked up by the distributor for a theatrical release or for a digital release or for development or for funding or anything, we will again get back to you, with the specifics to say, okay, this organization is interested. This is the kind of conversation they're doing. Do you want to take it forward? So that's the next step. Right now, the step is, shall we take it in this direction? Shall we not? And all of you have choice for your own firms.
Okay.
Okay, that helps.
Absolutely.
Perfect. All right.
All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you
Thank you,
so
Aditya
much.
ji. Thank you, Nitil.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.